Welcome in from Houston. I have landed. I've had a good dinner, and I've got some 49ers news for you. New rookie wide receiver will very, very likely see his NFL debut tomorrow, and 49ers might have somebody to trade for who's currently on the Tennessee Titans. This was the dinner spot tonight. They call it Hearsay on Market Square in Houston. I didn't know that Houston had this cool old architecture, but you've got to give every city a chance. Burger was solid. They call it Texas Wagyu beef. Had a couple of the football games on. Nice chandelier. And of course, everything here in Texas, I'm staying here at the Lancaster Hotel. It's been around since 1926. Everything here is about the Texas flag, including the team that the 49ers are playing tomorrow, the Houston Texans. The Texas flag is more prominent than the American flag in the state of Texas. Anyway, tomorrow, Jordan Watkins, Ole Miss product, fourth-round pick for the 49ers, will probably be in that San Francisco lineup. Why? Because the earlier show that I did, the live today from San Francisco before taking off and heading over here to Houston, we correctly predicted the 49ers practice squad elevations. Nick Zakelj, offensive guard, backup center up. He's going to be the number 2 behind Matt Hennessy with Jake Brendel out of this game. And Trevis Gibson, the edge rusher, elevated for the third and final time this season. He's also up from the practice squad to help bolster the 49ers defensive end position, which is very, very thin at the moment. So the 49ers did not elevate a receiver this week. It had been Malik Turner last week and 2 times before that. Turner, though, has seen his practice squad elevations exhausted. It is 3 maximum. So the 49ers only have 5 wide receivers who are eligible to play tomorrow because Ricky Pearsall is out of this game. I will illustrate it for everybody right here as soon as we can share the screen. First, we got to look at Jordan Watkins and his relative athletic score. The guy is fast with a capital F. Look over here on the right. The speed grade is elite for Jordan Watkins. This is what the 49ers really, really loved coming out of Ole Miss. 4.37 40 and a really, really good 10-yard and 20-yard split to make up that 40-yard dash. He can get off the line of scrimmage, and he was impressive during training camp before suffering a calf injury toward the end of it. Here's how the receiver room works, and these are the clues that I was able to piece together to figure out that Jordan Watkins is probably going to be active in this game. They typically have 5 wide receivers up, dressed on game day. Well, if you take a look at the 5, this is the 53-man roster. The practice squad is over here. None of the practice squad guys are eligible to play tomorrow because Malik Turner's out of elevations. Russell Gage didn't get an elevation, and neither did the rookie Junior Bergen. Pearsall's out, so we got to count the 5. Jawan Jennings is going to be 1. Kendrick Bourne is going to be 2. Demarcus Robinson is going to be 3. Sky Moore is going to be back there returning punts unless Jordan Watkins takes that job from him. But still, even if Moore, for some reason, is not a returner tomorrow, I don't expect that. That's still only 4 wideouts for the 49ers. And I've never covered a Kyle Shanahan game where only 4 have been dressed for San Francisco. So I would expect Jordan Watkins to be dressed for the 49ers for the first time in his NFL career. Would I expect him to play a massive snap load? No. Might he be inserted for more action than we expect if there's an injury? Yes. Have some of the 49ers moves over the course of the past couple weeks indicated that Jordan Watkins is getting closer to actually contributing for this team? Yes. Marquez Valdes-Scantling, when he went on injured reserve with the calf injury, the 49ers quickly reached an injury settlement with him. So there was no plan to bring MVS back this season. So he's no longer on the team after the 49ers reach that injury settlement. If they get desperate and they need to sign somebody once the term of that injury settlement ends, that they would be able to re-sign him. But it's safe to say that he's currently not in the 49ers 2025 plans. That signaled to us that there was a path for Jordan Watkins to fill up one of these roster spots, especially before one of them was taken either by Ricky Pearsall or Brandon Ayuk. Pearsall's still on the 53-man, but he's obviously not going to be active tomorrow. He's going to be one of the 49ers' 6 inactives with the knee injury. And Brandon Ayuk is still on the PUP list, although his practice window might open as soon as tomorrow, or I guess Wednesday. Yeah, tomorrow they don't practice. Tomorrow's Sunday. Tomorrow's the game here against the Houston Texans. I think that the 49ers would wait until Wednesday to open that for Brandon Ayuk. So they have improving health as a promise on the horizon, but they also need to get through right now. And obviously, Kendrick Bourne and Jawan Jennings and Demarcus Robinson have carried a lot of that weight. Jordan Watkins has a really good chance to slot in as the number 4 and in some receiver-heavy packages tomorrow if the 49ers need them, or if somebody gets hurt, he can take some of his very fast skill set and start to apply it to the NFL level. Of course, special teams is going to be another big thing, and anybody who's active on the roster tomorrow is going to have to be involved on special teams. And you know what? When you look at this kind of speed on the right side, that could be an asset in that third phase of the game for sure. 49ers always looking for better kick coverage, always looking for better punt coverage. You know what's ironic is that their special teams is actually ranked higher than their offense and their defense, but that's mainly thanks to the man named Eddie Pinheiro, who has been absolute nails. 17 of 17 on field goals. That is the longest perfect streak on field goals to open 49ers franchise history. He did miss his first extra point back in New Orleans. That was seems like a long time ago. It was already over a month ago. That was in early September. Now we are in late October. Eddie Pinheiro has yet to miss a field goal for the 49ers. And despite the fact that there have been some struggles for this team in coverage of kicks, they're giving up a relatively bad average starting field position. They rank third to last in the NFL. Despite that, they're number 11 in special teams EPA, which is a hell of a development for a team that, special teams was the bane of their existence in some of these recent seasons. But speaking of the kick coverage, Jordan Watkins, go back to the relative athletic score. If he is indeed available to go for the 49ers tomorrow, maybe he can help in that regard. Malik Turner was so good, but he ran out of elevations. He was fooling everybody thinking that T.O. was back and playing special teams for the 49ers now. Big number 81 last week, right? Making a ton of plays, including close to a touchdown saving tackle for the 49ers. So all of these spots are indeed important. We got some trade news. This is coming from Adam Schefter. He says that the Titans are open to dealing ahead of the NFL trade deadline, but they are unwilling to part with their most important players, rookie quarterback Cam Ward and star defensive tackle Jeffrey Simmons. So if Simmons is considered a core piece for the Tennessee Titans, who have already fired their coach, Brian Callahan, who are dysfunctional with a capital D, so be it. We had floated around Jeffrey Simmons as being a potential trade target. If you could get your hands on a guy that good at the very top of all the defensive tackle rankings, who's just an absolute game record, yeah, obviously you'd be interested in trying. But the Titans are apparently going to keep him off limits. There is a player on the Titans whom the 49ers might be interested in. It's Arden Key, who was with San Francisco back in 2021. Had a really good breakout year with the 49ers in 2021. 14 quarterback hits, 17 hurries for the 49ers that year, 39 total pressures for Arden Key. And, I just thought that he really took to what Chris Kasarik schemed up for him. And by extension, DeMeco Ryans, the Houston Texans coach. He was in his first season as the 49ers defensive coordinator when they had Arden Key. It's a lighter edge rusher, 240 pounds, actually currently dealing with a quad injury. He's questionable for tomorrow's game. Doesn't seem like anything serious enough to put him on injured reserve. If the Arden Key medically checks out, 29 years old, knows the 49ers system, has had success within the 49ers system. If they need a little bit of a pass rushing boost on the cheap, because I don't think that this would cost all too much, maybe they could trade with the Tennessee Titans for Arden Key. A lot of people like to toss out completely unrealistic trade stuff at positions the 49ers can't even afford to look at right now. Like today, I saw Brian Thomas Jr. and 49ers fans started talking about Brian Thomas Jr. They're not going to trade for Brian Thomas. I don't like wasting your time discussing the trade market, but I do like giving you factual information based on my sources, based on what I know. And I know that the 49ers are very interested in adding a defensive lineman. I think they would have been interested in a Jeffrey Simmons had he been available, but it doesn't look like the Titans are going to make him available. I know that they're interested in Trey Hendrickson, not looking too bright on that front because the Bengals seem to want to hold on to that for too long. They're arguably the third worst team in football based on the analytics, but just because they're coming off of a win, they seem to think that they're Super Bowl contenders. Newsflash, they aren't. They're playing the Jets tomorrow. We'll keep a close eye on that game because if the Jets do beat the Bengals, which isn't completely out of the question, I wonder what the spread on that game is. Obviously, the Bengals will be favored. The Jets are 0-7, but I think that it's going to be tighter than a lot of people think. Anyway, regardless of which way that game goes, there are going to be candidates in that game for a 49ers trade, right? You talk about the Jets being 0-7 with Jermaine Johnson. We've talked about Quincy Williams. They're probably not going to make a move for linebacker, but defensive line is more likely. Will McDonald the fourth, or Miles Murphy and Trey Hendrickson over on the Bengals. That game is in the early window, and Cincinnati is favored by 6.5, favored by less than a touchdown over an 0-7 team that mustered 88 total yards of offense the last time it played. So that just goes to show you that the Bengals are not regarded all too well by the sharps in this situation. Anyway, there's every possibility, too, that the 49ers make a couple of smaller trades along that defensive line. And Arden Key could be one of them. Titans are one of the worst teams in football, and they have at least one asset that the 49ers might be interested in. He had only 9 pressures this year before he did get hurt. This is one of his worst pass rushing grades in a while since his early time with the Raiders back in 2018. But he's also playing in a completely dysfunctional environment. So it's hard to tell statistically where Arden Key's at. The 49ers are obviously going to watch all the tape, and they're going to come to a conclusion as to who might be able to help their team and who might not be able to help their team here in 2025. But first, they've got to play a football game against the Houston Texans, against the number 1 defense in all of football. I think this game tomorrow, what a perfect kind of test for the 49ers coming after the Atlanta game where you had an explosive offense on the other side, a solid defense that was very aggressive but definitely had some holes, especially against the run. This is a defense that is up another notch from what the 49ers faced last week. The offense obviously isn't fully healed yet for the 49ers. No Brock Purdy, no Ricky Pearsall, no Brandon Ayuk just yet. So you've got to go Mac Jones again, but I think he's healthier than he has been in quite some time. He got out of last week's game without suffering any more injury setbacks. And remember, we were so worried about Mac Jones entering Tampa Bay. The 49ers were too. They worked out quarterbacks on Friday afternoon, and he didn't look all too mobile against Tampa Bay in that blitz. Looked a lot more mobile against Atlanta in their very aggressive blitzing. Well, tomorrow it's not going to be as much about beating the blitz. It's just going to be about beating a defense mano a mano, the number 1 defense in the entire league. The Texans are favored in this game by 2 points. We know that D'Amico Ryans and Robert Saleh have both coached the same 49ers defense before. We know that Ryans has taken a lot from Robert Saleh, so it's going to be really cool that their 2 teams are going up against each other tomorrow. But one of the things about a Saleh defense and a Ryans defense is that if blitzing is not needed, if you feel that you've got a front 4 that is capable of reaching the quarterback on its own, the blitzes generally aren't going to come. So the last 2 weeks, the 49ers have faced 2 of the most aggressive defenses in all of football. Todd Bowles loves to bring heat, and what Jeff Ulbrich is doing this year in Atlanta is almost unhinged with the amount of pressure that he's bringing to the table. I think you could count on D'Amico Ryans. Yeah, of course, occasionally he's going to test the 49ers with the blitz. They've got a new center starting in Matt Hennessy. You want to see if he's able to identify some of the protections. But for the most part, I think that we're going to see Houston cover with 7 tomorrow. And the 49ers don't have their full arsenal at wide receiver. I think it's going to be a struggle to separate. I think it's going to be a struggle to block this Houston Texans team up front with Will Anderson Jr. and with Danielle Hunter. I think that the defensive tackles are good too. I think that Azeez Al-Shire, when he is playing top-down defense, when that front of the Texans is generating a good cage pocket push, forcing quarterbacks to throw short, Azeez Al-Shire is a player who is obviously not afraid to hit you. I mean, he's been on the receiving end of dirty player accusations around this league. I don't think he's a dirty player. I just think that he plays extremely hard. I know Aziz through his time with the 49ers. Really good guy. Just puts his heart out there when he's playing. And with the new rules in the NFL, with all the gray area that there is, some of those hits don't look all too good. The one on Trevor Lawrence didn't look good at all last year. But the bottom line is the 49ers can't worry about debates regarding whether or not Aziz Al-Shire is a dirty player. They've got to worry about Aziz Al-Shire coming downhill and laying the wood, hitting them very, very hard. And the rest of this Texans back seven is not afraid to run and hit. This is going to be a physical, low-scoring game. I think the only way it's not low-scoring is if you see a couple of takeaways turn into quick touchdowns or a couple of busted coverages, but I don't expect there to be all too many on the Texans end. On the 49ers end, that's a different question. And, San Francisco, if they want to get back to this, you see Christian McCaffrey there celebrating the big touchdown. They're going to have to be very, very disciplined with the football. The Texans can turn it over. 4 takeaways against Seattle last week. They even had a strip of Sam Darnold in the end zone. That was all Will Anderson Jr. I mean, it's one of those games tomorrow for the 49ers where it can unravel. This defense is good enough. It can unravel if you're not managing the game, not protecting the football. So that's going to be on Mac Jones primarily tomorrow, but it's also going to be on the offensive line. I talk so much about running the ball to manage the ball, gap scheme, outside zone scheme. I don't know what the Texans are going to play harder against. I don't know if they're going to be trying to set up against the perimeter or against the interior runs. Last week, the 49ers just wore out the inside against Atlanta. You saw George Kittle wrap inside, and he was an inside blocker on so many of those plays. I think that Houston, probably watching the tape from last week, will try to take that away. And I do wonder if that's going to immediately open up some George Kittle receiving opportunities downfield for the 49ers. He doesn't have a catch yet since his return from injured reserve. And that's fine because last week he was blocking his ass off. But I think a lot of people are really interested to see what the counter move from the defense is, in this case, the D'Amico Ryans and the Texans, and what the 49ers' own counter move to that's going to be. And I think that George Kittle in the pass game could be a big, big key for San Francisco tomorrow. Jordan Watkins in the pass game. I'm sure some people in the comment section are asking about that. I'm not so sure he's going to be in on any of these formations early on. He'll be in on special teams, and then if there's an injury at that receiver room, maybe Jordan Watkins has to come in, try to stretch the field for San Francisco. But the cool thing about Jordan over the course of training camp is that he wasn't just like this streak runner. He was catching underneath passes. They trusted him on screens. They trusted him on crossers. They trusted him in on the seam routes. It seemed like he had a very full route tree. The one thing that Kyle Shanahan really liked about Jordan Watkins coming out of Ole Miss was that he ran that gauntlet drill at the NFL Combine, which is, as close of a drill as you can get to just emulating what you're going to have to do in a game as far as route running goes. He was their top gauntlet guy in the entire draft, and he fell down to the 4th round, and they were able to get him, even despite the fact that he's got those awesome metrics. I mean, one more time for the player who we expect to be making his 49ers debut tomorrow. Jordan Watkins, look at the right side. Elite composite speed grade. Got 777 of you watching. It's fitting because the flight that I'm currently scheduled to be on going back to San Francisco on Mondays on a Boeing 777. So that's a big plane. That's the size of plane that the 49ers fly around in. The U.S. domestic flights, unless you're going cross country, typically don't fly that big of a plane unless it's hub to hub, which Houston, George Bush Airport, and SFO are both United hubs. So they're probably trying to move one of their transcontinental or their trans-Pacific or transatlantic planes from hub to hub. So I'm going to be on a massive, massive plane, which is the same number as the crowd size here today. This is the eve of the game in Houston. Those of you who are just joining a little bit earlier, I was out at dinner here in Houston. It was very, very good. And, I was just also pleasantly surprised by the architecture. Market Square, I think it's the oldest part of downtown Houston. The place is called Hearsay. This is their burger. I give it a 7 out of 10. I've had much better burgers, but it wasn't bad. I also had some of the meatballs. I went pretty heavy protein with it. And after heading back to the hotel, you can't help but notice the Texas propaganda, which is just everywhere here, including on the helmets of the team that the 49ers are about to play. tomorrow, the Houston Texans. So good times here. It's not the shortest flight, almost 4 hours. Going to have to get some rest tonight and move into this game tomorrow. We're in a big travel stretch covering the 49ers here. Back to San Francisco after this. We'll see if the 49ers are 6-2 or 5-3, and then they've got a game against the New York Giants next week. So back to the West Coast, across country, then the trade deadline on November 4th. The two practice squad elevations are Nick Zakelj and Trevis Gipson. And speaking of that, just to help illustrate this on a closer scale, let's get this open again. Not the Texas flag. I want this. So Zakelj right here, he's an elevation. He's immediately going to be the backup to Matt Hennessy, but he's also the backup to Connor Colby. In fact, I would argue that if Jake Brendel were healthy, we might be seeing Nick Zakelj playing instead of Connor Colby, based on the fact that Zakelj replaced Colby for 4 snaps last week, but only exited the game after Jake Brendel got hurt because the 49ers didn't want to risk running out of centers. The edge rusher situation is obvious. Trevis Gipson up to join Mykel Williams, Sam Okawanu, and Robert Beal. Those are going to be the 49ers' 4 edge rushers, including Trevis Gipson, who's the most experienced of those guys. They are working against a bad Houston offensive line. The Texans rank number 30 in pass block win rate. They rank number 30 in run block win rate. They haven't kept C.J. Stroud clean. They haven't kept him confident on third downs this year. That's why C.J. has struggled for Houston, and the left side is particularly problematic. They've got a rookie left tackle in Arante Ursary. Remember, they traded away Laramie Tunsil. Nobody is sure why they did that outside of Houston. Maybe even the Texans aren't sure at this point. They trade away an all-pro left tackle. The rookie in his place has given up 22 pressures. The former 49er, Laken Tomlinson, a left guard, has given up quite a bit of pressure as well for Houston. He's a replacement player there for the Texans. So, yeah, even though the 49ers are down Bosa, down Huff, down Yetur Gross-Matos, there may be some hay to be made working against this Texans offensive line. And, the fact that the Texans have not been good run blocking, I think is really, really significant when we appraise this matchup, because the 49ers faced a really good offensive line last week. A couple really quality guards with the Atlanta Falcons. A good center, Jake Matthews, Iron Man at the left tackle. I mean, that's a good Atlanta offensive line. Remember in 2022 when the 49ers went to Atlanta, Marcus Mariota was the starting quarterback. That very similar Atlanta front just absolutely stomped them. I mean, I think Atlanta averaged over 6 yards per carry against the 49ers in that 2022 game. That was with Algier running in that game. That was before Bijan Robinson was in the National Football League. So the very similar Atlanta line, still filled with some robust players, came into Levi's last week against the 49ers D-line, an entire defense, right? And managed only 3.1 yards per carry with Bijan Robinson now aboard. So Algier had run all over the 49ers behind that line in 22. They couldn't do it against this 49ers front. Since the Texans don't have good run blocking, they've really struggled this year. I think that is a big, big deal entering this game, because if they can't establish any sort of run game, I don't care who you are as an offensive line or who's rushing for the defensive line, those guys are going to be able to pin their ears back and get some pressure on a quarterback who has struggled this year in C.J. Stroud. So the 49ers run defense, as good as it's been, they were number 29 last year. Now they're number 8 this year. It really is a floor raiser for the 49ers defense, because, you perform on run defense through effort, through physicality. It's not necessarily a superstar one-on-one type of thing. It's a team effort. And the fact that the 49ers have lost so many guys on the defensive side of the ball, 2 superstars in Bosa and Warner, the reason they're able to keep this together is because they're playing much better run defense, which is much more team contingent than individual contingent than last year. And I think that could be something that really, really works in San Francisco's favor in this game tomorrow. I want to show you exactly where C.J. Stroud is relative to other NFL QBs. We got the XY chart out there. All right, so here we go. CJ is right here. I'm circling him with my cursor. Below average this year. I don't think that he's been absolutely horrific. He definitely hasn't been good. His protection has been bad. The run blocking, the setup, the protection has been bad. The offense for the Houston Texans has been below average. That being said, the 49ers cannot let CJ Stroud get comfortable, because the second any QB gets comfortable, they become an upper right guy up here. Trying to see if Mac Jones. See, Mac Jones has been better than CJ. Mac Jones is right on the origin. He's been average for the 49ers. But he's gotten the, as QB too. You'll take average any day. Mac Jones isn't too far off from Herbert and Matthew Stafford. He's better than Stroud, better than Kyler Murray. Baker Mayfield, for whatever reason, the completion percentage over expectation has been worse, but he's been efficient. He's been an upper left quadrant guy. Best quarterbacks in the league this year, Daniel Jones and Jordan Love. Dak Prescott, honorable mention as well. Patrick Mahomes has surged as of late, started to get some receiving talent back. But this is what the 49ers are going against tomorrow as far as the Houston offense. It is the team tier chart that is truly staggering, that has Houston way at the top defensively. Number one efficiency in the entire league, but the offense for the Houston Texans just not really up to par. The way that the 49ers have seen this much success, and oh, look, they left some macaroons for me at this hotel. This is a really, really nice hotel. Wow. All right, this is some Texas hospitality. Look, we got the Lancaster Hotel. We got a note from the Lancaster Hotel, and it's handwritten. Dear David, welcome to the Lancaster Hotel. We hope you enjoy your stay with us. Please let us know how we can be of any assistance. Sincerely, the general manager. Well, too bad that Margot's not here, because she would really enjoy these, the macaroons. They left some chocolate on the bed as well. Probably go eat that after this. But anyway, like I'm happy with what Houston has brought to the table so far from the dining and the hotel standpoint. Now we can talk about the 49ers against that Texans defense, and I can answer some of your questions. The GM of the hotel is not John Lynch. It's not Buster Posey. It's not Andrew Luck. Although Andrew Luck is from Houston, the Stanford football GM. Usually they leave one share in crude oil. The Houston Oilers, I miss that franchise. They moved to Tennessee. They became the Tennessee Oilers. They played in Memphis for a year, and then they moved over to Nashville and changed names to the Tennessee Titans. So the expansion team to replace them was the Houston Texans. Kind of missed the Warren Moon Houston Oilers days. Mike, can you send me a picture of Warren Moon or anybody, Eddie George or Warren Moon in a Houston Oilers jersey? Yeah, the GM might be Warren Moon of this restaurant, but I need to see that Oilers helmet, the oil derrick. I mean, those are classic helmets. And now the Titans try to wear those as their throwbacks. You guys have no right to wear those uniforms. You moved out of the city of Houston. Don't act like there's a bunch of oil in Tennessee. Earl Campbell, that's a good one as well. Hopefully Mike is around. If Mike hears me, he'll get me a nice Oilers picture and we'll put it up on the screen. Bum Phillips, Wade's dad. Oliver Luck, that's Andrew Luck's dad, was the quarterback of the Houston Oilers for a while. Mike is on it right now. We're going to get it in a second. I'm looking for questions right now. I am in the chat, by the way, so I'm ready for all of you. All right, we got a good one. We have a really, really good one coming up here. Mike has come through with the goods. Warren Moon, Houston Oiler, and those powder blue jerseys, but you also have the oil derrick on the helmet. Take a look at this. That's Houston for you. And now let's be honest, the Texans uniforms are kind of lame. The Texans uniforms are this. They're the flag of the state of Texas. Give me this any day. I mean, this is classic. That's the team that blew the lead to the Buffalo Bills in the postseason. No, the 49ers are not going to go straight to New York. They're going to go back. That's why I'm going back to San Francisco this week. They also wouldn't go to New York. They'd either go to Youngstown, but Youngstown I don't think has natural grass. So they'd probably go to Bradenton, Florida, somewhere. Or they could go to where they were in 2020. Actually, they might have done it for 2 straight years. They went to West Virginia. White Sulphur Springs, I think it was. They stayed at that fancy hotel there. But they're not doing it. They're going back to the Bay Area after this game. This is really the only opportunity on the schedule for the 49ers to stay over, but they're not going to do it this year. Yeah, this is a good comment. Are people still talking about Max Crosby? They're not going to trade him to the 49ers. They just re-signed him too. So I'd rather talk about the Houston Oilers' cool logo and reinstating the Houston Oilers instead of the Texans than talk about Max Crosby and pipe dreams of him being traded to the 49ers. Will Ricky Pearsall be the Ken Griffey Jr. of football? Big talent, but always injured. What do you mean always injured? The guy got shot last year. That doesn't count as a football injury. It wasn't his fault. Like, let's stop blaming Ricky Pearsall getting shot on Ricky Pearsall. Like, I feel that people kind of do that underhandedly when they say that he's injury prone. He banged his knee once. Like, there's been one knee issue for Ricky Pearsall, and he's missed a couple games. But he came back last year from getting shot in the chest to play really well for the 49ers, and he played through the season after he came back. And he showed up this year, and he got off to a hot start. And, not the only 49er to get hurt and miss a couple games. So I think it's way too early to start talking about patterns regarding injuries with Ricky Pearsall. We also have the greatest player in Houston Texans history. Ready to share a picture of him up on the screen. Bakersfield's own David Carr, the 49ers' own David Carr, still holds the record for the most sacks taken in a single season, his rookie season. And, yes, a lot of it was the offensive line's fault, but sacks are also a quarterback stat, and you could even argue they're mainly a quarterback stat, so wasn't getting the football out quickly enough as a rookie with the Texans. Kenny asks, is Purdy the emergency quarterback? No, he's out. They're not messing with that. Purdy actually traveled with the 49ers to Houston, so he's making progress. He might be back next week. We'll see, though. They might just say, we don't want you to come back on the turf, the artificial turf in New York. Just save it for the Rams game. They have a plan in place. They're obviously not divulging too much of the plan, but it's very clear that he's progressing at practice, but they don't want him back on this turf this week. I know that, so they didn't make him the emergency third quarterback. This is a very, very good comment. The NFL has a 100% injury rate because it's football. It's a violent, violent sport. And, Jake Matthews, the left tackle for the Falcons, 180 straight starts. That's a true Iron Man. Fred Warner, who had started for 133 out of 134 games. I think it was 132 out of 133. That's a true Iron Man. But those guys are so few and far between. They are the exceptions and not the norm. This is a good question. Do I think that Lucas gets another start? Because Upton Stout's probably going to be back tomorrow. Deommodore Lenoir is going to be back tomorrow. Lucas Chase is nickelback, has made some timely plays for the 49ers. They have shown a trend toward moving toward more trusted veterans over some of these rookies where there are some struggles. And I think Marquise Siegel had struggled a lot more than Upton Stout, but Upton Stout has had some growing pains for the 49ers. But you could see that they're going more veteran heavy at safety now. Malik Mustafa back, so he's one of them, and we'll see who that second safety is. But last week, Marquise Siegel got the fewest snaps out of all the safeties. Obviously, Upton Stout wasn't available for the 49ers last week when Chase Lucas took over. So we don't know exactly how that division would have gone had both of those guys been healthy. But I would keep an eye on it because Chase Lucas has earned every bit of the activity that he's getting out there on that field. I mean, he's just such a smart player, diligent studier, and obviously got his body ready to at a very high level for the 49ers over the course of this offseason. He's a guy that has earned his keep. How many snaps does Jordan Watkins get tomorrow? That I don't know, and it might be injury dependent. I think if nobody gets hurt, it's not going to be a lot on offense. Now, I mean, special teams for sure, he's going to get a few snaps, but it would shock me if they had more than 2 or 3 plays designed in a package for Jordan Watkins without injuries setting that up. But we'll see. Kyle Shanahan could have something up his sleeve for a quarterback who can move that well. Mark says that he's fired up. The 49ers could be sitting at 6-2 with a decimated roster if they could grab the win. I mean, this is you're right. It's a tremendous opportunity. The next 4 games, I mean, just think the 49ers have put themselves here. They have a +7 point differential, which suggests they should be about 500. They've scored 7 more points than they've given up. Yet they're not 500. They're 5-2. Regardless of how they've gotten there, have they stolen games? Have they gotten lucky? It's a combination of everything, right? You need luck to succeed in this league, especially if you're not a dominant team. But they haven't had luck on the injury front. In fact, I would argue they've had the worst luck of all time on that front, or the worst. And they have $96 million on injured reserve right now. So they've found a way to get to 5-2, which I think is borderline miraculous. It's such a testament to the locker room. It's such a testament to what Kyle Shanahan is doing as a coaching staff. It's awesome. But now you look to see where that 5-2 start has positioned them and what the opportunity because of it is. The next 4 games: Houston tomorrow, New York next week, LA Rams coming to Levi's, then a road game at Arizona. If the 49ers can win 3 of these next 4, just start to imagine what it might look like. They are 5-2 right now. 3 of the next 4 would be 8-3. 8-3, unless you collapse in the most monumental way possible against what looks like a fairly soft schedule to end the season, minus the game against the Colts and the Seahawks at the end. But the Titans are on it. There are some really winnable games for the 49ers. 8-3 would put the 49ers in some of the most enviable position in the entire NFL. And they have gone from a level of injuries that would break maybe any other team in the league to having a chance to make a run at 8-3 over the next 4 games. Now, they're not going to be favorites against the Rams. They're not favorites tomorrow. They'll probably be favored against the Giants and the Cardinals. But you can't just go out and expect 4 straight wins from the 49ers. Like, it'd be 5, including the Atlanta game. That's unrealistic, right? They will be returning players. They will be getting better, but there's still going to be flaws. This league has so much parity. It'd be foolish to expect them to win 4 out of 4. It's possible. I'm just not saying that it's mathematically likely. The mathematically unlikeliest game to win, probably the one against the Rams at home in week 10, even if they get guys back. So to insulate yourself, like, you just want to stash money into the bank on a week in, week out basis. That's what they've done so well so far this year. Tomorrow's a chance to go to 6-2. You're playing an offense that's struggling. But it also would be a very earned 6-2 because it's the best defense in the league that the Houston Texans are sending out there. So yes, I mean, the big picture stuff always really motivates me to talk because I think it's important to appreciate that the 49ers are 5-2 right now. Imagine if the LA Rams were without Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, Jared Verse. They don't even have a linebacker who I could equate to Fred Warner. So I'm trying to, there's nobody good enough on the Rams to fairly equate to Fred Warner. So and then three other defensive starters that are good. Just place them in for Fred Warner. Imagine if the Rams were down all those guys plus more. Do you think they'd be 5-2? I don't think so because they're 5-2 with all those guys right now. Maybe without Nakua for a little bit of time, but like you could play this game with every roster in the league and you cringe. You're like, okay, where would the Cardinals be without Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison Jr., Trey McBride, whoever their best defensive lineman is, probably Josh Sweat, Buda Baker. Like, that's the injury equivalent that the 49ers have faced. I mean, the Rams, as our friend Quest for Six here says, Rams fully loaded, 49ers still got the dub. They had all those guys. The Rams have been the least injured team in the entire league. Yet the 49ers still went into SoFi and beat them. Now, was it an unlikely win? Did they defy some of the statistics of that game? Of course. But they still found a way to win, which doesn't happen in this league. Like what the 49ers have been doing this year is not normal. So why don't we go back, kick back and enjoy the ride as it continues tomorrow here in Houston. I am looking for some more good questions. Mark has a good comment. If you look at so many teams and take away 4 or 5 of their best players, they're not going to be 5-2. They might be lucky to be 2-5. I mean, the Rams have the best backup quarterback situation in the league with Jimmy Garoppolo. So maybe they'd be able to insulate a Stafford loss, but it wouldn't just be Stafford if you compared it to the 49ers. It would be, like I said, Stafford, Nakua, Jared Verse. They have a different, I would say Devontae Adams too, because they don't run, maybe Higbee. They don't run nearly as heavy of a tight end presence as the 49ers do with George Kittle. But you get it. Like down 4 or 5 players, it would not be pretty for these other teams. Big Brick 84 says that the 49ers record is a testament to the coaching staff getting the whole team in the best position to win. I agree with that. Status on Pearsall, he's out for tomorrow. I think there's a chance that Ricky's back. Obviously, he could be back next week against New York, but if the 49ers are playing this turf safe, the next natural grass game is week 10 against the Rams. Is the World Series finally over? I know we probably have a lot of Giants fans. Yeah, the Dodgers beat the Jays, the Blue Jays, 5-1. So the World Series is evened up at 1 game apiece. Congratulations to the combo 49ers Dodgers fans. Those people always make me laugh, but I guess that there's a lot of them down in Southern California. Why aren't they using Guerrero in the passing game? Well, because they've got guys in the passing game, especially coming out of the backfield, that are better than Isaac Guerrero. Christian McCaffrey's on pace for another 1,000 season. He'd be the first player ever to have 2 1,000 seasons under his name. So, and Christian has taken so many routes out of the backfield because he's dependable. He's the best in the game coming out of the backfield. They had a play designed just for him into the seam on 3rd and 13. You'd rather be throwing to Christian McCaffrey than to Isaac Guerrero. Then you've got actual wide receivers who are better than Guerrero at being receivers, like Kendrick Bourne, like Jawan Jennings. I mean, we're not even getting down to throwing to Kyle Juszczyk or George Kittle. That's going to start happening in this game. Sorry, Guerrero's just not one of your 5 best eligibles, even with the injuries that the 49ers have right now. That's a good thing for the 49ers. That means that they're loaded. Like they could have a lot of injuries and Guerrero's still not cracking the top 5, but Christian McCaffrey takes up a whole heck of a lot of production room and production chances. So there are a lot of people who just don't know what they're talking about and who are ego invested in bad takes. Do you remember I don't even know who said it this offseason. Who said this offseason that Christian McCaffrey had lost the step? It was like one of the dumbest comments of all time, and it was so try hard. It was like, "Look, everybody like me. I'm critical." I forgot who it was, but they put that out there, and it was one of those takes that was so bad that just with that one take, you knew never to take that person seriously ever again. After saying that Christian McCaffrey had lost the step, Christian McCaffrey turned around and is now on pace to lead the league in scrimmage yards by the end of this season, and is on pace to become the first player in NFL history to go 1,000 twice, and I think is an MVP candidate. So much for having lost the step. So when you got an MVP candidate delivering the way that Christian McCaffrey is, you don't pull up a relatively random name like Isaac Guerendo and say, "Oh yeah, Isaac Guerendo should be eating into his snap count." I mean, you this is a Hall of Famer that you're talking about, and Christian McCaffrey, who's making NFL history. You don't take him off the field. It shouldn't be that complicated. Like, people really want random players to go replace Christian McCaffrey, and they're not happy that the 49ers have defied odds to move to 5-2 by the skin of their teeth. Like, every single point, every single yard has mattered. Well, guess who's maximizing points and yards for the 49ers? Christian McCaffrey. You're not 5-2 if he hasn't played the load that he's played so far. He's putting this team in so many ways on his back and moving forward, and people still complain because they'd rather, it's probably because your stupid fantasy team. You probably made an idiotic decision to draft somebody who you weren't even sure was going to play because you read some stupid comment on Twitter that Christian McCaffrey looks a step slow. You could have just been on this channel listening to the actual truth about the 49ers. I told you that Christian McCaffrey was going to have a huge year, was going to have a big load for the 49ers, and that's exactly what's happened. So stop obsessing about Isaac Guerendo and appreciate greatness right in front of your eyes, because it's happening at a Hall of Fame level with Christian McCaffrey. You know what's funny? Stone Blanton, he's back with the 49ers now, the linebacker. He looks like Brock Purdy. Like, they share so many, like, they resemble each other so much. The other day I was like, wait, Brock moved lockers? He's like on the different side of the room now. And then I was like, oh no, that is Stone Blanton. Nope, nobody's ever had two 1,000 seasons. There have only been three 1,000 seasons in the history of the league. Roger Craig of the 49ers deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Marshall Faulk, Christian McCaffrey. If McCaffrey does it this year, 1K, he'll be the first to do it twice. Bijan Robinson might also do it this year. He could become the fourth player to go 1K. Tim Miller, more David Lombardi telling you he's smarter than you. No thanks, Tim says as he watches the show. So he's saying no thanks, but he's still watching. And yeah, if you thought that Christian McCaffrey had lost a step, I am smarter than you, because you're not very smart if you thought that Christian McCaffrey had lost a step. So sorry if the truth hurts you, but that's really the state of matters right now. It is crazy that Roger Craig is not in the Hall of Fame. To be the first guy to go 1,000 in the 80s for the 49ers, I mean, it was revolutionary in how people viewed the running back position. He did it way ahead of when Marshall Faulk did it in 1999, like 15 years before Marshall Faulk. So, and Marshall was a revolutionary player in how he was able to deliver coming out of the backfield. So it's one of those things where it might be too far in the rearview mirror for people to appreciate exactly what Roger Craig did, but when you consider the context of the time when running backs were not catching the ball prolifically, for him to have over 1,000 receiving yards was damn impressive. Trade deadline is on November 4th. Yes. Why haven't the 49ers played Sebastian Valdez? Well, he won Scout Team Player of the Week this week, but they haven't dig down to needing that depth yet at defensive tackle. If Valdez were a defensive end, there's a good chance he might have played already, but defensive tackle hasn't had quite as many injuries. In fact, Kevin Givens has recently returned. Yeah, Arden Key mentioned in the title. I talked about him a little bit earlier. This is the report from Adam Schefter. The Titans are open to dealing ahead of the trade deadline, but they are unwilling to part with their most important players, rookie quarterback Cam Ward and star defensive lineman Jeffrey Simmons. Key is obviously not one of those foundational pieces. Might be available on the cheap for the 49ers, especially since he's currently recovering from a quad injury. This hits it on its head. The wide receivers and tight ends weren't blocking as well early in the season because there was no Kittle. We all saw what happened when Kittle came back, Zachary says. Yes, and you know what? We also have seen the wide receivers, I think, start to grow into their roles. Like they didn't have a lot of continuity with all the wide receiver injuries. When it comes to blocking for the run, it takes a lot of cohesion. 49ers just didn't have that up until they don't have it fully right now. When Brandon Ayuk returns, that's going to be big for the 49ers. They are growing into the rhythm of the season. It took some more gap scheme running to take some pressure off the perimeter blockers last week, but I think that's going to help set up some of the zone stuff. Tomorrow's tough, though, because it's the number one defense in all of football. They had also struggled at the guard position, run blocking. So I think Pooney's getting healthier. I think it's tough having a rookie Colby at that left guard position. We'll see what happens when Barch comes back. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. Good night from Houston. Let's go back to this. We could play this to close things out. Get my burger. Set the table for the game tomorrow. I'm going to go eat the chocolate that the hotel left me. And then I got to go to bed because the game is tomorrow. It's an early start. It's noon Central Time, 10 a.m. Pacific here in Houston, where the 49ers will play the aptly named Houston Texans. But they should be the Oilers. The Oilers would be so much better. But they're not. They're the Texans. And they've got this on their helmet, the flag of the state of Texas, which is everywhere in this place. All right, everybody take care. Enjoy the game tomorrow.